This is the trend topic, and it's moving fast. Since it hit the mainstream with ChatGPT, generative artificial intelligence has been the main subject in every business circle. The transformations we see and the possibilities that arise from the advancement of this technology have made CEOs and business leaders ask themselves when and how they should act towards this revolution. A report launched recently by McKinsey shows that applying GenAI across multiple industries could add $4 trillion to the world economy annually. This is more than the GDP of the United Kingdom. The report also shows that areas such as customer operations and marketing and sales should yield the highest returns. The great potential seen with GenAI lies in its revolutionary capacity for processing natural language, a very human characteristic that had never been reproduced with such precision by a machine. The impact on the workforce should not be less than on the business side. According to the McKinsey report, current generative AI and other technologies have the potential to automate work activities that absorb 60 to 70% of employees' time today, which will have a profound impact on how we work. It seems like the world is about to change again. I'm Mariana Almeida, and this is the McKinsey Talks directly from our studio in São Paulo, Brazil. McKinsey Talks is a series of video and podcast interviews of around 20 minutes with McKinsey experts and guests from different industries. Our aim is to start interesting conversations on relevant topics on the business agenda. And here with me today, visiting Brazil, is Alex Sukharevsky, Senior Partner and Global Co-Leader at Quantum Black AI by McKinsey. Alex is also one of the authors of the McKinsey report on GenAI that I just mentioned. Alex, thank you very much for being here. It's an honor and a pleasure to receive you for this chat.
Thank you very much for having me here. The pleasure is mine.
And also with us, there is Pepe Cafferata, Senior Partner and Leader for Latin America at Quantum Black AI by McKinsey. Welcome again, Pepe, here
Thanks,
in our
Mariana.
McKinsey Talks.
Pleasure to be here again.
There are a lot of people on the other side interested in this conversation. So, Alex, straight to the point here. What is in the minds of CEOs and executives when it comes to GenAI? You, like Pepe, talk to dozens of them every week, all around the globe. What have you heard from them?
Well, I think there are three major questions that I'm seeing. Number one, is it real or it's hype? We got it so many times wrong with different tech trends. Is it one of them? Number two, let's assume it's real. What do I do about it today to improve my position on the cost curve or increase efficiency? And then there are quite a few questions in the spirit of your opening. If it's so revolutionary, what does it mean for my industry or for my business model? How can I reinvent it? So these are roughly three types of questions, and there is a lot of in the middle that we get asked.
Okay, so what do you answer them?
So first of all, I think it's real, because we're seeing at least 4 families of very bankable use cases that you could do today and now in order to improve efficiency of the organization. I also feel it's real because there is a deeper meaning around the way how we interact with the world. We all got used to multiple devices that we spend a lot of time and actually managing our lives through devices. Now, think about the world where you have your virtual assistant who shops for you, who actually plans your travel, or who helps you to organize a lot of home tasks, but you interact with a voice. It's completely changed the way we think about the world today. Therefore, I think this is real and it's here and now. I think to the second question, it's really not about having thousands of experiments, that is great, but it's first and foremost educating yourself about the ability of AI, and then asking yourself a question, what does it take to implement it within the organization? Be it data, be it IT architecture, be it capability, be it your organizational structure. How do you bring it in place and transform your company through this capability and create enterprise-grade AI solutions as opposed to pilots? And then last but not least, once you understand the different fundamental shift, I think what's worth is stepping back and bringing your most creative people in the room, be it technology people, be it business people, HR, risk, and trying to reimagine the future for your organization or for your industry.
Pepe, and how about in Latin America? Do you see different questions, or do you feel that the questions are a little bit the same?
I think I see this very similar questions with a few nuances, right? One is the concern about CEOs and CXOs about the impact this might have on the workforce is quite significant, right? And we get a lot of questions about the use cases, a lot of questions about how do I get started, as Alex was saying. But there's also a reflection of how does it change my role as a leader, right? How does it change my role as a CEO, as a VP? How does it change my day-to-day as an operations head? Someone that is managing manufacturing plants, someone that is managing contact centers, someone, even the stuff around writing software. And we got a lot of queries about how this can accelerate, right? And given in a region the importance also of commodities, right, we're getting a lot of questions about how can this help us be more efficient in research, in market intelligence, in being able to summarize and synthesize thousands of different data points into something that I can really use easily. So those are kind of the nuances and the specificities on the region, but all in, there's this big belief about this being revolutionary. And obviously the hype question comes up, and also the security questions comes up, which we'll probably address later.
The risks, yeah. There are a lot of priceless insights in the report McKinsey just published, and I'll start with this one. Some areas and industries, Pepe just mentioned a little bit, concentrate the greatest impact that GenAI can bring to business, somewhere around 75% of all estimated impact. Alex, can you tell us which are these areas and why they have this potential?
Let's go back to what is generative AI. It's essentially a model that, based on past data and experience, tries to guess what's the next most appropriate, not necessarily most likely, sign, picture, sound, you name it. Now, if you come from this framework, you realize that the tasks that could be framed in a very standard way are the first one to be impacted by generative AI. And therefore, a lot of use cases around marketing and sales, around operations, around customer care will be the first one to get infused and enriched by generative AI. On the other hand, coming back to the change in the human dialogue in our interaction with the world, we could clearly imagine that consumer industries like consumer goods or retail, telecom, banking or entertainment will be probably the first one to get impacted. Where you go more and impacted not just from the efficiency standpoint, but also from the fundamentally what does the industry stand for? Because if you think about the new world where we interact through bots, what the role of advertising? How does the modern advertising will look like? Now, when you go down into more traditional industries, obviously we understand that the moat there is bigger, and it's not just about generative AI. At the same time, we could see quite a few gains from generative AI of efficiency within traditional companies to the use cases that Pepe mentioned, be it around summarizing and back office operation or front office operation, be it around code development, be it around multimedia development, be it about co-pilot for blue collar workers to actually how to do maintenance or many of the other stuff. So actually the impact is coming across all industries, but some of them we could already see how will be reshaped by GenAI, and some of them will be adjusted in terms of their cost curve using GenAI tools.
Great. You just mentioned some use cases, but can you go deeper? I think it's a question for both of you. So can you give us some more examples and explain a little bit how it will impact our life?
One of the areas where we're seeing most activity, right, as Alex was mentioning, is around customer service and customer care, right? And this has different flavors, right? One is, how can I help the people that interact with clients, being commercial sales forces, being field operators, being contact center operators, to have more intelligent dialogues with our clients, right? And these workforces in general have to be trained in multiple products, in multiple situations, in multiple realities. And it's very difficult to train them all and to have them all at the same level of understanding at the same level of response, right? And generative AI provides a very good way to have in hundreds or thousands of people very concise questions to very deep and complex business problems that can help the assistants be much better at answering and having dialogues that are intelligent with the clients, right? And that can go all the way to chatbots that are actually interacting with clients in a much more humane way, right? Today, the chatbots are still not there yet. They're still clunky. They don't answer your question. They get into loops if you don't have the right answer for them. This can take chatbots to a next level of having a human dialogue. And as Alex was saying, today a lot of the dialogue and a lot of the interaction is done typing by text, right? And it's quite counterintuitive if you think about it, all the interactions you have texting and typing stuff, right? If you can transform that into voice and you can have a live conversation with an agent, right, that is intelligent and can give you great answers, that will revolutionize customer service as we know it, right? So that's one example, Alex.
I agree with you, Pepe. And what we are seeing today, beyond hype, is actually four families of real bankable use cases. One of them we call conciseness, is ability to summarize, be it books, be it contracts, be it policies, and then able to, on the one hand, provide you the synthesis, but also be able to handle Q&A. Think about new employee, or think about somebody who would like to discover certain things within the contract, right? That's one thing. Second area that most of the people are talking today about is software development. How do you take old legacy code and bring it into the modern software? Or how do you accelerate development of software? Third thing is around content creation. And content, think about spare parts design to really marketing content of 3D environments, gaming. That could be significantly accelerated using generative AI. And then last but not least is the conversation itself. That could be text conversation, but could be voice conversation, where based on the previous experience, we're able to interact with machine and get answers, be it around our banking account statement, or be it around what's the healthiest thing for me to eat now, or how do I do the next fitness exercise? So there is like a broad range of issues that if you think about these use cases separately, you could see quite a lot of interesting utilities. But on the other hand, to Pepe's point, if you bring it all together, it completely redefines many industries and many operating models.
Well, the report mentions that this GenAI will add $4 trillion to the economy. So you talked about many use cases. Do you think it's a sum of all of that? Or where do you think this come from? Is like optimization, is cost reduction?
Basically, what we did in the report, we looked at a very granular view, both bottom-up, but also top-down, where we applied more than 60 use cases across very different steps of the value chain in order to calculate the impact. Now, I think what is important to mention, this is the first-order impact. When they think about the reinvention of the world or certain things that Pepe mentioned, that will be clearly additional value that is not calculated as part of the report because the future is still very much unknown.
In the conversations we're having and the report, to capture the 4 trillion and beyond, is much more than the model. It's much more than the foundation model and the technology, right? There's a lot of things that need to happen for that to really have an impact and to really drive the 4 trillion in value or more, right? And one is in the companies we work with, being very clear about where's the value for the business, where's the opportunity for reinvention, right? Where are the pieces of the value chain where we can see this really adding value? And it's very easy here to get lost in the X number of very cool use cases you could do, but have no value whatsoever. I had a conversation with a client today. The technology people were saying, we should do this use case, and it's great, but it was not going to drive a lot of impact because it's only 100 interactions per month on that. So how do we really focus where the value is and the reinvention can be had, right? And then to develop these kind of models, you need, as Alex was saying, you need the business people, you need the HR people, you need the risk people, you need the compliance people, you need technologists, you need the data scientists, need the data engineers, all working together to make it happen, right? And then you really need to work on the data and the technology, but fundamentally, if I am an RM or I am a customer service assistant or I'm a field operator or a machine operator, how is my life going to change using this technology? Mm-hmm. And how do I have to change the way I work? Do I have to be reskilled? Some of the things I was doing before are going to be done by the AI, so maybe I have to be reskilled and do other things that are more value-added or are more complex, right? So it's a huge thing about how this is going to be implemented in reality in the day-to-day work of the people that work with us in companies. And that's also fundamental. So to capture, you need the whole thing, right? You need the focus on the business value, you need the operating model, you need cross-functional teams, you need the risk management. Of course, you need data and technology. And then you need to see how people will change the way they work on a day-to-day basis so that that can really add the value that we're looking for.
I would like to know how should companies should do to start implementing GenAI, especially given the risks in this new technology. You just mentioned some of actions that they have to do, but what are the first steps?
Well, I think, first of all, you really need to step back and look at this holistically. You need to get your data in place that is clean, reliable, and accessible. You need to fix your architecture, IT architecture, in terms of allowing data to flow. You need to have relevant technology people, but more importantly, rest of the organization really understanding what's the power of AI, what it can or cannot be doing. And then bringing all these things together will most likely take quite some time to reconfigure the organization. And once you have it, then you're able to go for a journey. And of course, last but not least, you should also reflect on the risks, be it on ethical risks, be it on the cyber risks, be it around biases, and many of the other things where you really would like to understand exactly what you are doing and how you are going to mitigate some of those risks. And I think one thing that I think Pepe brought in is when the world discovered AI around November, it was also one of the lowest points in trusts of executives in AI. Because what we have observed, irrespectively of country, industry, company, for quite a few years, the magic number was 11%. Meaning only 11% of use cases went into production, 1 out of 10, before they become real value creating within the organization. So therefore, the notion that Pepe brought is how do you not just do a few experiments and pilot, but create enterprise-grade AI is extremely important if you would like to unlock the value that we described in our report. That's the difference between potential value and capturing the value.
And Alex, the report published by McKinsey shows that generative AI has the potential to change the way we work, as we mentioned, also increasing the capabilities of individual workers by automating some of their individual activities, especially those linked to the so-called knowledge workers. What does the research suggest about workforce transformation, and how can companies prepare for this future that is just around the corner?
So if anything, I believe it's the age of creativity. And first of all, human beings need to understand what it is and what it is not, and then apply it as one of the tools in their life to create new things, to simulate different situations, to get access to new knowledge. And if you think about literature, let's go to the literature that was written with PC. And you try to compare it to the one that was written over manuscript. They are all great pieces of literature, but they are just different. You cannot compare them, some of them more polished, some of them less polished. And the same will happen here. It's about human genius who takes software tools to boost productivity or to reinvent business model. And if anything, I believe in the future, the role of creative will be even more important.
I think the example on the literature piece is really interesting and really important. And to me, if you look at the world, we've been living a technical knowledge revolution for the past 40 to 50 years, right? Since the introduction of computers and then PCs and then iPhones and then and I think this is one additional technology that will have a profound impact on how we relate to the world and how we do business, how do we live our lives. And to me, the biggest point is how we as leaders are going to reskill our workforces and the work we do. I mean, what took us here in terms of success models is not going to take us to the next level, right? So the reskilling of the executive boards, the reskilling of the people that are doing work, the people that are the knowledge workers, the customer service reps, the salespeople, and the whole way we do business is going to change. So to me, it's a very good and nice problem to have, but it's also a big challenge from a leadership perspective, right? And I think there's a lot to be said yet, but we do know that you will need to be reskilled, you will need to lead by example, you will need to do it to yourself first before you can start giving the example to others. As an executive team, you will be able and required to manage the risks that this entails. And a lot of people will change the way they work. A lot of people will feel that they don't have a job anymore. And how do you deal with that? And how do you reskill them and augment them so that, as we've seen in other technological revolutions, some jobs get more automated, but some new jobs get created, right?
The jobs change.
Exactly.
Pepe, the role of CEOs and senior leaders will also be deeply impacted, I imagine. You mentioned many roles in the ecosystem, but the CEOs who are watching us, they might want to know how their role are going to change with all this technology.
Yeah. Well, I think multiple ways that a CEO life is going to change. First of all is his or her own life, right? From, doing research in going to different people to ask different questions, and from understanding the world through many different data points, you'll now have another tool. Not that is not going to replace it, but it's going to augment your ability to very quickly get insights of what's going on in the world, right? Mine news, mine industry reports, mine what's going on in India with the crop of rice, right? Very, very quickly you can get a sense in a very summarized and succinct way of what's going on in the world that can help you complement, right? So the first thing is how their own life is going to change, right? But then as a CEO, you will need to think through with your team how this is going to reinvent your industry. So you will require some significant amount of reflection with your team to say, okay, based on my value chain and based on what generative AI can do, where is it going to change my world? And how do I get ready for that? And how do I go to that? And then should I leapfrog or should I follow in those areas, right? And then the other thing is, once I have a view, once I have a vision with my team that we feel inspired by and we see real dollars against, is how do I make it happen? I mean, I have to go and invest, right? And I have to make decisions about prioritizing investments. And then I have to make decisions about how do I sequence this roadmap and what do I do first, what do I do the second? And more importantly, how do I walk through the process and walk through the journey with the people that are going to be most impacted by this, be it customers, being my workforce, being my leaders. And I think there's a significant amount of role modeling and storytelling and change management that as a CEO you will need to do in order to really capture the value of this, right?
I love the direction where Pepe is taking it. It first starts from ourselves. Learning, reflecting what does it mean for me as a human being, and actually developing your own vision. And then I think you could go and change the organization. I think one notion that I would underscore is the notion of responsible use of AI. What do we use it for? How do we use it for? How do we make world into the better place by using AI? And I think all these questions should be asked before applying anything on any business or nonprofit task.
Well, unfortunately, we are reaching the end of our session. Do you two want to leave a final message to our audience?
Probably my message would be that there are a lot of experiments and exciting are going on in this field, but the aspiration should be what's the enterprise-grade implementation of AI. So while it's great to learn and to experiment and to do different trials, the real question is how does one steps back and ask herself or himself, what does it mean for my organization and how do I make it happen in order to fill it on a daily basis as opposed to few experiments that will remain in the sandbox?
I would just underscore what Alex said, and it's very easy to get bogged down into doing 25 different pilots that will not really, at the end of the day, change the way we work and change the way the companies work and really drive value. So getting a notion of getting started, but getting started with a clear purpose in mind, with a clear aspiration in mind, and making sure that we address the whole ecosystem of actions that need to happen across all the stakeholders to make things happen, even in a pilot, is super important. So I would really stress the holistic perspective. And it's not only about a large language model, it's not only about an API or a technology, it's about how we change the world we work. And this is a technology that helps us do that.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Pepe. I hope to see you again soon here with us in McKinsey Talks. And thank you very much, Alex, for being here. Such a pleasure to listen to your insights.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
GenAI is such a complex and fascinating topic that new questions and reflections come up every day. I encourage you to contact our experts, emailing to McKinsey_talks@mckinsey.com. You can also find our latest GenAI report at mckinsey.com.br or by scanning the QR code on your screen. The full agenda for the McKinsey Talks series is on mckinseytalks.com. There you can also check out these episodes and previous ones in video or podcast. Thank you very much for being here with us, and see you later.